On piano, George Baldwell. On bass, Trevor Ware. And Robert Boone on drums. Here we go. This is the Count Basie Orchestra Rhythm Section presenting Swinging the Basie Way.
We need way more than an hour on this subject, so we're gonna get right into it, right? It'd be great if we had like this pill we could send all y'all with, just say, give this pill to your rhythm section. They'll be swinging, right? We need to work on that, y'all. We're working on it. Next bus trip from Germany to Spain, we're working on it. But we want to talk about swing and what we do as a Basie band, and we already heard the members of the band. Everybody here is an educator and as well as been in the band for some time. So we want to talk about swing and what we do swing, and we're going to let each of us talk individually, or at least feature an instrument individually, but we'll all probably talk about it collectively. And then we're going to leave time for questions at the end, so save them. Okay, so first let's hear from Will Matthews, our guitarist.
All right, good morning, everybody. See you guys early. Will Matthews is my name. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I joined the band in 96. Been with the band for about 25 years now. And never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be considered one of the senior members of this orchestra. That's what happens when you keep on breathing. So it's been great, though, you know. I really enjoy playing, being a part of the continuum of the orchestra and that great legacy that the great Freddie Green laid out, sitting in this chair for like 50 years. That's incredible to me. And when you think of Count Basie, you think of Freddie Green. Freddie Green, he was there and kept things together, kept things swinging. That music, that band, all those bands from back in that era, 30s, 40s, or whatever, they were the, Lady Gaga's and 50 Cent's, whoever of the day. People came out to dance to that music. And so, what makes them want to dance is the rhythm section. Count Basie said it starts with the rhythm section. The rhythm section has an important job to do. Each one of us have to know what our role is and try to make the music, try to set the atmosphere and the backdrop so that the ensemble is able to do what they do. So we all have an important function and job to do here in the Basie Orchestra. And it's a stylistic thing. You know, every rhythm section is important to any band, but in the realm of the Basie Orchestra, we have there's a certain style that you need to know how to play, or else it just doesn't really work for what the orchestra is about. So, we all are trying to actually be as authentic as we can about playing in the style that the music needs. And so for the guitar, it's about the Freddie Green style. The guitar is kind of like the catalyst, if you will, or the glue between the bass and the drums. That's the way I look at it. Whatever those guys are doing, the guitar kind of locks it all in and kind of brings it together. And then the piano can just do whatever it wants to do at that point. He can float, he can play in the cracks, he can do whatever he wants to do because we've got it locked down. So I'd just like to show you, just demonstrate what not to do, and then come back and then show you, what you should be doing as far as playing within the realms of the Basie structure. So maybe we'll play that blues again, and I'll play some choruses and just play some things, and then we'll talk about it at the end. I'm always dropping picks, yeah. Okay, so, all that stuff was good, it was good blues stuff and all that, but it would probably, work better, like with the organ trio, or something like that, playing some Jimmy Smith, some things like that, but, it doesn't quite work for, the Basie style. And now I'm getting in the way of the piano, probably getting in the way of the ensemble stuff they're doing. It's just like too much stuff going on, too many different rhythms and things like that. So now let me show you what you should be doing. I'm sure you could hear the difference in that and what I was doing before. You know, the first time I was using, for the guitar players out there, how many guitar players are out there? Okay, not too many, but a few. And so what I was doing was, they'll understand, I was using the first four strings, top strings. You know, I was using extensions, extending the chords. And what Freddie Green did was, Freddie Green, pretty much you could just say he just took away his, you could just take away the first two strings. He voiced all his chords on the last four strings of the guitar. And I think maybe that's because, you know, he started out playing tenor guitar. It had four strings on it. And maybe that's the reason why he just used those last four strings. They certainly do work really great for playing rhythm guitar, because they synthesize it like the third and the seventh of the chord for the most part, leaves everything else open for you know, the piano can do whatever it wants to do. Like I said, the ensemble can do all kinds of other things. Don't really have to play extensions. The ensemble has all that stuff covered. The piano has it covered. So the main function for the guitar is just making it feel good. As for the whole rhythm section, just making things feel good, staying out of the way. That's a very genius way of being able to play all the time, playing quarter notes all the time, but never getting in the way of anything. So those last four strings are very important, except for that one chord on Little Darling. That chord he uses like all six strings. You know, it's like a full 13 with all strings, not six. But for them, I've checked out all the recordings I could check out. I've never heard him play. It's always been playing, voicing some of those last four strings, and so you know, it works for him. It definitely works for me. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Caldwell here, or turn it back over to Trevor.
I just want to make a quick comment on the guitar before turning it over to George. So we'll kind of explain sort of the detail of what's happening in the guitar, but just a feel thing for me. I've never expressed this to these guys, so I'm trying this out on everybody right now. Okay, but it feels like to me like when the rhythm section is playing a rhythm, we're trying to come down on an accurate point, right? We're all trying to be on this accurate point with regard to the rhythm. And to me, it feels like most bands, we're sort of getting on our tiptoes and we're trying to all together find that accurate point. But there's something about having the guitar in the orchestra that galvanizes this thing between the bass and the drums. And for me, it makes it feel like that point is much wider. So we're still trying to be accurate, but we're not walking on our tiptoes. This band rhythm section is like, you know, right? We got a big point. We're still trying to be accurate and together, but we're coming down with this bigger swing thing, right? This bigger beat. And that's what it feels like to me is missing when we don't have the guitar, right? We can still groove, we can still play accurate together, but the width of that downbeat, the feeling that we're giving to the music kind of changes. And that's, to me, one of the secrets of the Basie band swinging, really. So that little tidbit right there. George Caldwell on piano, how about it?
Thank you very much. My name is George Caldwell. I'm from the well-known metropolis of Clarksdale, Mississippi. Everybody knows that place. And I joined the band in April, I'll never forget it, April 4th, 1989. And yeah, I never thought I would be a senior member of this band. But yeah, so one thing about the Basie organization, there's part of their feel, a lot of it comes from the blues, just straight up blues. And in its infancy, it was one of the bands, they used to call them territory bands, because they were, you know, in the States, out in the Midwest, where been states very long, they were territories. And so there's this feel that comes with that. And a lot of it comes out of, in the piano, a lot of it comes out of boogie woogie. If you listen to some early Count Basie, like the later, it's almost like Count Basie just distilled the role of the piano in the band. Like in the beginning, he used to play, he could play any tempo, any key, any time. And, the boogie feel. Everybody knows that. But that was a kind of an incarnation of the territory thing, the territory band thing. Who were some of the people? Meade Lux Lewis, Albert Ammons, who actually was the father of Gene Ammons, the famous tenor player, Judd, and Pete, actually, I can't think of the, like I was saying, but so that blues feeling kind of infused everything that Basie did. And he used to say, what does he used to tell his arrangers? Not too many demented fourth cheats, and leave room for the rhythm section. The rhythm. That was a big, huge point with Basie. And in the style of the day, Basie would just, especially later on, like in the beginning, he was all over the piano when it came time. Check out The Kid from Red Bank, or a recording, what's the other one, with the Basie 7, that blues they used to play. Look for the Kansas City, Count Basie, the Kansas City 7. And there's a bunch of videos of them on YouTube. Buddy DeFranco was in it, with Ed Jones on bass, Freddie and Basie. And I think Wardell Gray was in it. Does anybody know who Wardell Gray is? Anybody ever hear this song? My analyst told me that I was right out of my head, the way he described it, right? Joni Mitchell made it really popular. Well, that actually is a Wardell Gray saxophone solo that Annie Ross put words to. So, So Wardell Gray was in it. Who else? My memory fails me. But those are great examples of what's happening with the Basie style. As time went on, Basie just, because I believe, this is what I believe, because he played so much piano early on, he could just play a few notes over time and just suggest all that. You would hear it without hearing it. So the Basie piano role is one of color, simplicity. It's not crowded unless they're playing a burner, and the feel. What do you say about that feel? It's gotta have the life of all, from boogie woogie through the blues. It's gotta have it all, and you gotta indicate that, and that's what I try to do. I mean, I'll play something up, just like I never thought of this, but Will gave me this. He did it, so I'm going to show you something that will be really wrong. Can we play that blues again? This is what you should do in the Basie, piano in the Basie band. You know, that stuff, Basie was, first of all, he was always coming out of the blues, always. And even if he wasn't playing blues notes, he had the sense of that. So if it doesn't have the blues in it, don't bring it, right? And so pretty much that's kind of what it is. It's hard. Some things are hard to talk about, but I can tell you what it's not. But it's hard to say exactly what it is. But part of it is, like Trevor was saying, the beat is very broad, and generally speaking, he played on the back side of that beat. You know, on the burners, he was right up there. On the really fast tunes, he was just, you know, he was right up on the beat. But that's a part of it is and which gives its relaxed feel, the sensation. And it's also coming out of, like, as Trevor said, it comes out of the dance. The big, I'm gonna say one story and then I'm gonna stop. When I first got in the band, we played the Lindy Hop convention at the Pennsylvania Hotel in New York City. You know, Pennsylvania 65000 and all that. And before up to that point, I was studying. I was really, I was nervous, and I was studying everything that Basie did. And then when we got to that, and we played, and the dancers were out there, I got it. That's when I got it. There was a lock between the band and the dancers, and that's very much a part of the music. It's dance music, and it's Lindy Hop. You know, it's an older form of dance. But so anyway, I have a tendency not to know when to stop. But so it's got to come out of the dance. It's got to have the blues in it, and it's got to have that relaxed feeling, and no demented 14ths. Okay. I'm gonna hand it over to Robert Boone. You want to use this one? Okay.
Testing. Hey.
Oh, he's good.
Hello. My name is Robert Boone. I'm the drummer of the Count Basie Orchestra. I've been in the band for about 4 years or so, and I just want to start off with a quick story, and then it'll kind of lead me to where I'm going next. So my very first gig with the band, we were in New York at the Blue Note, and I got the music kind of a month before, practiced it at home, flew out, and we started to play. We played April in Paris, which I'm sure all of you know. And we played it, and I'm thinking, like, I did a great job. I thought it was okay. And as soon as we stopped, the lead trumpet player turned around and said, "Oh, you need to do this different." Lead trombone player, "You need to do this different." Lead alto player, "Why are you doing this? Why would you do this?" And then the director was like, "Okay, forget everything they just said. This is what I need you to do." So, all that to say, I'm kind of the point of contact when things are not in order between the horns and the rhythm section. So what that means for me is I have to be locked in with the rhythm section, but I also need to be listening to the lead trumpet player who kind of dictates the phrasing for all the horns. Sometimes, very, very literally, that actually means playing, my left hand will actually be behind everything else that I'm doing because the phrasing is laid back, but I can't lay the whole groove back because then I'm detached from the rhythm section. So now, how do you do that? You have to really listen to this music. Reading is great, and I take great pride in being able to read almost anything. But with a lot of these charts, they're written one way and played a completely different way. So yes, it's great to be able to read, but when it comes time to play the actual music, that doesn't really help you all that much. So you have to listen to many different eras of this band too. The way we sound, the way we will sound tonight is going to be different how the band sounded 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and go all the way back. And that, that changes with personnel, different directors, different styles. Sometimes we'll make our own little adjustments on the charts and things like that. So you have to really be open-minded and not take things personally when everybody turns around and tells you they need something else, because it's probably going to happen tonight too. But so one of my band directors when I was in 6th grade, I think, told me a quote, and I never forgot it. And he told me, playing big band drums, you are basically the Paul Revere of the band. What does that mean? The British are coming. So, and not the British in this instance, but this is, this section is coming, or this dynamic change is coming, or the shout chorus is approaching. So you have to play things to kind of cue the band before you get there, and that'll actually tell everybody where we're going. So not in case anybody's lost, but I guess if they are lost, they know where we're going, or just musically being able to translate these things without looking over and yelling at everybody saying, hey, the shout chorus is next. There's things that I can do here to lead us to the next part of the song, or especially dynamically, right? So the Basie Orchestra is really well known for the wide range of dynamics, and we'll be forte on beat 3 and then piano on beat 4. So for me, we have to really practice playing at all different dynamic levels and getting in and out of those too. So that's something I would encourage you to work on with your students and peers that you play with in groups and things like that. Is just to make sure that the dynamic range of what they're doing. A lot of times drums are really fun to play, and I got in trouble a lot when I was growing up for always tapping on things and beating on car doors and doing all this other kind of crazy stuff. But just because you can play it doesn't mean you need to, and doesn't mean that it's necessary, right? So kind of like what George was saying on the piano, George has got all kind of stuff under his hands, technique-wise, but it doesn't really fit what we're doing. Excuse me. So you have to make sure everything you're doing is stylistically correct. You want to play with the wide dynamic range. You want to be playing a position or play in a way that tells everyone musically where you're going, how you're going to get there, how loud we're going to play, how slow we're going to play it, how fast. All these transitions, and it's on you. So going back to my original point, you can't really do all that if your head is buried in the chart. So you have to, I would encourage you to tell your young drummers and peers to try to learn the music and try to not read it at all. Because then it kind of opens your ears up and you can really focus on listening. It's very hard to do that when you're really staring at the music. It's almost impossible. So that would be my biggest point of advice really is to listen, and then also just try to make sure that, obviously sometimes you have to read the charts. If you just got the music an hour ago, you got to do it. But if it's something you've been playing over and over and over, you probably don't need it anymore. And it'll make everybody else feel more settled in if the drummer's more relaxed and not frantically turning pages and trying to play these things at the same time, because it's not going to go very well. So also another point is, with playing drums, you have to, like I was saying earlier, it's a lot of fun, and it's, whenever someone posts an Instagram clip, it's always them playing the fastest and loudest thing, and that's great. But that's like 10% of what happens actually during the performance. There's a lot of comping and backing up other people's solos and things like that, and I'm not trying to say it's boring or anything. I'm just saying you got to learn when to pick and choose your spots. When you can kind of open up, so to speak, and then when it's also okay to just kind of sit back and just groove. We are the rhythm section, so we need to play with great time, rhythm, and feel first and foremost. Because if it doesn't feel good, nobody really wants to hear it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't sound good, if it's not feeling very relaxed, it's not enjoyable to the listener. And going back to George's point about playing with folks, playing with dancers, right? When you think about music that people dance to, it's got to have a consistent pulse, a consistent recognizable pulse. And so we sometimes with bebop, we kind of get away from that a little bit. But when you think about the big band, there's a big, deep history of playing with dancers and things like that. So it's really important to keep that in mind. I actually try to think about that while we're playing, like imagining there are dancers on stage, and is this something that they can actually groove to? And if the answer is no, then you need to change up what you're doing, right? So that's pretty much my perspective on big band drumming, and especially the Basie style of drumming.
I just wanted to add something to what Robert said about memorizing the music. When I joined the band in 1996, the band leader at that time, Grover Mitchell, he told the whole rhythm section that he wanted us to memorize the music as soon as we could, because he didn't want our heads buried on the paper, on the chart. He wanted us to be able to do something with the music. And so we took that to heart and started memorizing this music, the charts and everything. And then we're playing IAJE one year, and the music didn't show up. The airlines lost our music, all the charts, right? So we got to play anyway, right? So, you know, while the ensemble is trying to figure out what they can play by memory, the rhythm sections, you know, we're out in the lobby, cool, because we got all the music memorized. No problem. Whatever you want to do, we got it. So, you know, that advice came in very handy. And it does, you know, allow you, when you kind of know the chart, it allows you to start doing other things, you know, as a collective, as a rhythm section, start doing other things with the music. Because the music's always in the present tense. It's like something Robert said about, you know, each era, the band sound different in the 30s, the 40s, band in the 50s and 60s, that stuff was killer in the 50s and 60s. They sound different, and so we sound different today playing, because it's always progressing, it's always something different. So just wanted to add to what Robert said. I'll turn it back over to Trevor.
I'm going to be really quick because I want to get to the questions. But first, I just want to introduce somebody that's over here on the side, the director of the Count Basie Orchestra, Mr. Scotty Barnhart is right over here. How about it for Scotty, everybody?
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I had it on my schedule that it was like 9:30, so just getting here. But anyway, what I was asking them was, first of all, it's a great treat to have the swingingest rhythm section in the world here to demonstrate and talk to you about what we do. Now, as the director of the orchestra, my job is to make sure that whatever we play is swinging. Simple as that. But it also is my job to make sure that whatever tempo that we play is swinging. And one of the things that we always get asked, like when I go work with college bands or high school bands, how do we swing like Basie? Well, the rhythm section stays the same. The horns are the ones that can go around the beat. Sometimes when I work with a section and we'll play something that has a staggered triplet in it, the drummer will start doing staggered triplets, and that's usually not what happens. So what I was asking them, maybe I can have them do for you, is play some different tempos, like Basie power tempo, regular blues tempo, just 3 or 4 different tempos, so you can show them how you swing the different tempos. You guys want to do that? So there's we'll start with Basie power. There's a composition that I think we're going to probably play tonight, and it's probably the fastest in our book. It's one of the fastest in our book. And the thing that's really nice about this is that sometimes I count it off, sometimes really, really too fast, sometimes, but they stay right there. So this is a composition called Basie Power, and it features 2 alto saxes, and we'll have them play tonight. But I didn't know we were going to have work out. But we'll just give you an example of what it's like to have this rhythm section play it really drastically different tempos. So here's one I'll count off. This is Basie Power. Starts with piano. It's blues in F, basically. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 17 other people, 13 other horns to that. It has to be right. Okay, so, all right. And then after a tempo like that, we'll go straight to a tempo like this. One. Play on top of that. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? And to me, the real key that's making this rhythm section swing is the bass player. It starts with the bass. Please understand that director, this is high school, college. If you don't have a good bass player, you can have the best pianist, the best drummer, the best guitarist. It's not gonna swing. It's just not. And if you play close attention to Trevor on the bass, just listen to how he's walking in a triplet fashion with the skips. Just listen to how he's walking. And again, the music is about dancing. So I don't know about you, but this makes me want to dance. I can't even dance, but it makes me want to dance. So that's kind of what the litmus test is for us when we're playing. When I'm counting tempo off, and you'll see me tonight on stage, if I'm doing that, that means I'm dancing. And that means the band is dancing. Robert on drums, he's doing that. He's dancing. That's what that is. So it should make you feel like you want to dance. Okay, all right. All right, then you take like a ballad tempo, even like a ballad tempo, like we can do Little Darling. Maybe that's a ballad dance. Like right on the chain, this is Little Darling. Right on the chain, right after the melody starts. This is the ballad tempo, Little Darling, and we just show you how they can go from a real fast tempo to a medium tempo to a ballad. 1, 2, 3. And I can tell you, I've been in the orchestra 28 years now. We played thousands of concerts. When we play this, if it's a dance, if it's a concert hall, you can see people wanting to get up and dance. And I encourage that, even in a concert hall. Shoot, if there's room, that's what the music is for. You don't have to sit there and look like, all stiff. So if the music moves you, oh, that's what it's about. And that makes us play better. And what happens is that if you have a really good jazz band, it doesn't become the audience and the band, the room, wherever you are, that becomes the band. So it's like a big band together. That's what you want to try to do when you have your bands, when you're working with them, college, high school, doesn't matter the level. The whole room should take on one feel, and that's what we try to do. Mr. Basie totally understood that. And one of the things that Mr. Basie used to say was, when they would start playing, he would look at the people's feet in the audience, or they would look for their hands to see if they were snapping their fingers or moving their feet. And if he saw them moving, then he knew he had them. Then it was just a matter of changing up the tempos so that it would not be boring, but always be enjoyable. But this is what a great professional rhythm section playing a ballad sounds like. It's balanced. No one is louder than the other one. It just makes you feel good, you know? And each of them have a very, very important role. The guitarist, his role, like Freddie Green, is to lock where the tempo is. So wherever that tempo is, it's going to be right here. And usually, the way they're set up, they all can still see his right arm moving, believe it or not. Trevor's behind him, Robert's behind him, but they can see this. They can see that movement. And that helps them to keep the tempo. So when you set up your high school bands or your college bands, make sure that the rhythm section, they can all see each other. Because if they can't, then the tempo can kind of get off a little bit. It just sounds great. Imagine playing on top of that, sax, trumpet, or whatever. And the pianist's role, George's role, is that he's obligated a little bit to kind of play like Basie a little bit, I'd say a third, and the other 2/3 can be how he wants to play. But he can't ask him to play like Basie all the time. But he understands it well enough to know when to go in and out of it. That's the only hard part about the piano chair in this orchestra. Okay. Does that make any sense? You guys understand this? You guys have any questions? Anybody have any questions, please? Yes. There's a mic there, I think. Is that the mic for questions right here? Hello. Sound, do you have our mic working?
Good morning. I just want to say on behalf of everybody in the room, thank you for coming out and playing for us. Really appreciate it. I have a question for Mr. Robert. I just started drum set in August. I started taking lessons for drum set and jazz drumming. And like you said, like I want to learn how to get out because all I can do is read sheet music, so I don't know how to like play around, like listen out. So how do you listen and how do you go like, okay, I hear that. How do I like and like how do you accommodate to it? Does that make sense?
Last part of your question.
So like, how do you listen to the ensemble go like, okay, like I'm playing this, I'm gonna switch to play this. Like, how do you know what to play in the context of the music by listening?
Can we put that house mic in the monitors? There you go. Ron, ask the question again. Tell that in the mic again. What?
So one in the monitors.
Okay, I think that's that. Ask the question.
Okay, so my question is how do you as a drummer listen to the ensemble and go, okay, I'm not reading the sheet music, I want to listen and play music that is meant for the ensemble. Does that make sense?
So what you should do to start is, I'm not telling you not to read music, right? You should use it at first, and then what I like to do is get a chart. Like the other day, we got some music that we're gonna play tonight, and I'll look at the chart and listen to the recording, and then you can really tell what someone is playing or what they're not playing, what's important and what's not so important on the chart. Just to be completely honest, a lot of folks that aren't drummers that write drum charts don't really know what they're doing. So sometimes it's too much information or not enough. So what you have to do is figure out what's important, and you can only do that by listening, and also your director will probably tell you the things that you're missing in your playing. So, and then also with a band like this, you want to listen to the same tune across many different eras, and then you figure out, where the common denominators across all the eras, what's really important, what's never missed in any genre, or any era of the band. So that's where I would start, by listening, and then also just, making notes on the chart, and then you listen to it enough times, you don't even need the music anymore, and you figure out what's important and what's really not.
Another question? Come on up. I'll just make a quick comment with regard to that. I'll tell you how I listen to the drums. I think this is related, but as a bassist, I like to listen to the hi-hat for time. Like if I'm working with my young bassist, this is what I would tell them. Give me like a, just like that. So the hi-hat is on 2 and 4, right? We know that. Just the hi-hat. So just the hi-hat, right? So I'm listening to that for the time. Now, we played a bunch of different tempos, so whatever tempo we're at, I'm listening for the hi-hat there, right? But then I'm listening to the ride cymbal for kind of feel, like what the feel of the tune is, right? So this is a swing feel, right? And if you've got a bassist and you're really trying to get him to lock in with that drummer, have him listen to that feel, that swing feel, and maybe even try to predict when the drummer's gonna play that skip beat, ding, 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 ding. And if your bassist is listening to the drums well enough to try to figure that out, I guarantee you, he's gonna be locking up with the drummer and playing drums. So that's just something that I do to try to hear the drums well and teach my students to listen to the drums. More questions? Come on up. I think we're gonna have to come up or get to the mic somehow. Otherwise, okay, all right. Yeah. You got a big voice. He must be a vocal coach, a vocal teacher, right?
Middle school band.
That explains a lot right there, doesn't it?
Our clinician always told us drums listen to the bass. So now, obviously, you guys have to work together, but the drum man listening to the bass, or the bass listening to the drums, who ultimately is in charge?
Yeah.
It's both. Okay, so you can't really say who anybody is in charge. Well,
No, it's a rhythm section. Like if one of us is messed up, they're gonna look at all of us anyway. They're gonna play all of us anyway. So we gotta be together, right? And I'll say this too. There's this other thing. There's this camaraderie right here. Like we are a section, and we feel responsible for delivering a cohesive sound to the rest of the band. Like it starts right here, right? And so we want it to be good right here and offer it to the rest of the band too. So.
And the other thing is that you have to really remember, these guys have 87 years of a previous history that they have to know. Not just them, but every section of the band. This is why it's difficult when we have to find somebody new to come in for us. Every chair in this orchestra has 87 years of history in it. So they have to know, like our lead alto player, David Glasser, he has to know what Marshall Royal did. He has to know what Bobby Plater did. He has to know what Danny Turner did. He has to know what Earl Warren did. Trevor has to know what John Clayton did. Cleve Eaton, Eddie Jones, Walter Page. George obviously had, obviously has to know what Basie did, and the pianist for him. Will has to understand Freddie Green. Robert Boone on drums has to know Harold Jones, has to know Butch Miles, has to know Sonny Payne, has to know Joe Jones, has to know Rufus Jones. So it's very difficult, and it takes a lot of study. That's another thing that I'm finding that a lot of the young musicians, and especially band directors, really don't take into account. You have to study this music. This is not, you just don't walk up here, we just don't walk up here and play. You got to know what's going on. If you want to sound good, that is. I mean, you can put a bunch of musicians together and just play. But if you really want to sound good and be together and swinging, you've got to understand what it is that you're doing. And unfortunately, you can go to a college university right now. I mean, I teach at Florida State. You can go to a college university right now and get a degree in music education without being required to have one semester of jazz studies, jazz history, jazz techniques, and then you go out and inherit a high school jazz band or a college jazz band. And you wonder why they don't sound good. Because the directors usually don't understand what they're doing, or they won't even get in touch with people who can help them to figure out what to do. So all these guys up here, man, this is a serious thing. It's very serious. It's fun though, but it's very serious. And I think if people begin to really understand what it is that each person, the responsibility of each of us, it's a deep thing, man. So when we play tonight, we'll be having fun, obviously, but we'll be so focused and so in tune to each other. Like Trevor said, that's a rhythm section. And it's an orchestra. When we play together, everybody's listening. And what I try to make sure is that our Barry player is he sits on the end over there. I make sure that he can hear Trevor way on the other side. I always say, can you hear the bass? Can you hear the pianist? And if they usually can't, and we don't have monitors all over the stage, we don't do any of that. We just have solo monitors down front. So that means 17 guys have to listen amongst 17 guys. That's very hard to do, but it creates a level of professionalism that you just don't find in other groups. That's why nobody's playing the way we play, how we play. Nobody's doing that. They just aren't. So we have a collective DNA that each of us, when I first joined the band, I had to come in and figure out, well, this guy who I'm replacing, which is Melton Mustafa, and Thad Jones is in that chair. Sonny Combs was in the chair that I played. Snooky was in, I played some of Snooky's parts. So I had to understand what those guys were doing and figure out how to add to that. So anyway, I don't want to make it a long answer, but if that makes some sense about these directors. So if you guys have any questions, any more questions from any directors? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Matt. I'm a middle school band teacher. I've taught lots of stuff. I'm a trumpet player. Went through university, studied trumpet, did a bit of, played a little bit of piano, played a little bit of drums. But one thing I find is that a lot of band directors don't have a lot of experience with string instruments, so like guitar and bass especially. I was curious if you guys especially would have any advice for those of us who were like, I don't even know which end of this instrument to hold, and much less put it into a jazz band to make it sound good.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we got to learn, right? I guess that's the thing, Like I teach at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and one of the courses I teach is strings, and it's a string class for non-string players, right? So guys like you who, the horn players, they come to my class to learn the basics, which are the strings, name of the strings, how to basically teach the instrument. And I think that's a good course for everybody to take in strings so that we can learn about these instruments. The whole violin family is good to know about, but certainly the bass. Bass really too is just like a peculiar thing, man. It's so big, it's just so much wood, it's just weird. So it's just hard to have a lot of expertise. Maybe a partnership with another band director who's, the inverse of you, maybe we can help each other that way, But you just have to kind of find the information's not hard to find. You just got to get it and
Where do you live?
immerse yourself in it.
Okay. I've done some people in Winnipeg. There's a big band up there called, what I'm talking about? I actually played with them. I just can't think of the name. Yeah. So do you know the guys in that orchestra? Yeah. That's all you got to do. Just get in touch with them. Again, no one should be afraid to seek out someone that has the information that you need. That's what music is supposed to be about: cooperation, not competition. And a lot of times these band directors get, I don't want my students to go help them because they, But when I was in high school, man, we would have band directors from other parts of Atlanta come to my school and show us stuff, So this music is supposed to be a collective thing. So if you have something or a student that has a need, I'm sure there's somebody either in that orchestra or somewhere in Winnipeg that could be the perfect person for them to get lessons from. And that's all you have to do.
I mean, I think most of us in the band would consider it an honor for someone like you to come up to us and ask us a question like that.
Any other questions?
Thank you all. I have a question about the guitar and bass as amplified instruments and how you get the feel to lock in with the other instruments that are not amplified. I know students, young students who over-amplify. So what do you do to get this to all lock in with acoustic and amplified instruments?
Can I make a comment? First of all, like we in particular are trying to deliver an acoustic sound. So the minute it doesn't sound acoustic anymore, well, we went the wrong way. We turned the tone knob the wrong way or something, right? So we're trying to take the sound of these instruments and just amplify it. So that's the first thing. We're just trying to get this sound and make it louder, not change the sound, not have a distortion on my guitar or my bass or something, right? So that's the first thing, the sound we're trying to deliver and delivering the qualities, the sound of the instrument, if you will. And then you're right, delivering it at appropriate volume is important too.
Yeah, our guitarist is not amped. He just has a monitor so he can hear himself. And it forces him to really stay in tune with what the sound of his instrument is. So one of the things that you can do in your high schools or your middle schools, they need to just be familiar with the sound of the instrument itself, just what it sounds like, no mic or anything. Then try to get that from an amplifier. That's kind of what you have to try to do when you play with a big band.
And also think about the setup too. Presumably you already got your rhythm section together, but make sure they can hear each other and they can hear each of the other rhythm section players and whatever. Because sometimes you can be right next to a guy, especially when the amps turn up, and not be able to hear him, right? So make sure that your bassist and that all your rhythm section can hear the other members of the rhythm section. They want to hear your orchestra too. But how can we deliver a cohesive sound if we can't hear each other right here, right?
I think we have time for one more question, I think.
Yeah, we got about 4 minutes.
I'm trying to figure out how to convince my electric bass students. I don't really know what to say about that because that's so, like, what is their calling? What is their, so I don't know if I can say that to them, but I would say they should try it, I would say it's a beautiful instrument. The acoustic bass in particular, to me, is just a beautiful instrument that's got a unique importance in the band. I would talk to him about the kind of person that plays the bass, right? It's not the lead guitar player who's in the front of the band doing this, right? But the bass player is locking things down back here. You know what happens, like just have them listen to music, good music, and then take the bass out, right? And just let them see how that feels, and just tell them this is the opportunity that you have to deliver this kind of feeling, this kind of importance to this music, if you want to try it. But it is a hard thing. It's different.
Where do you live? So you have a professional bassist in your city, like a professional jazz bassist. You got to bring them to your school for a clinic, man. Just have them stand right there in front of your students and play for like an hour. That would be probably the best thing you could do. Seriously. And you'll find some of those students who might be shy and they might not say anything, but they hear him playing, they see him or her watching him play, change their life, man. So the best thing you can do is actually put professionals in front of your students. That's like, no matter what level you are. If you got a professional in your city, put them in front of your students, man. I don't care if they play harmonica,
There's a lot of young guys also playing the heck out of this instrument now in all kinds of different music. So find some of them YouTube videos and let them see what else can be done here.
Maybe one more, yes. Yeah, somebody?
Can we get this? We try to get some females in here.
And I'm the orchestra director.
Come on, girl.
So I teach middle school orchestra. I'll have bass students with their first jazz band experience. They've only been playing their instruments for a year. What's the one thing that I should make sure that I teach them in a lesson before or as they're starting their first jazz band experience?
How to listen. One of the things that my band director did is late Gordon Boykin, I grew up in Atlanta, and Chester Biffin after that. Every day that band started, the first thing I would hear when I get to the band room was a recording playing. It could be classical music, it could be whatever, but you gotta have them listening to the music. So you can get in touch with me or any of us up here, and we'll help you make a playlist So you should have a wide variety of music playing, because if they aren't exposed to it, you can't expect them to reproduce it. If it's not inside, if they're not listening to it, it's not gonna come out of them. So you've got to be listening all the time. Like when I work with bands and they're playing a Basie chart, first thing I say, well, how many of you guys have listened to the original recording? Nobody's hand goes up. How do you expect to play that if you haven't heard it? Seriously. So the best thing any of us can do is always making sure that the students are listening. Listening is fun. Sometimes they don't, in some of my lessons, private lessons, we won't even play. I'll just have them listen for a half hour or 45 minutes. They've got to absorb it. So I'll let these guys answer that, but listening is the most important thing.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end here, but I'm gonna just suggest that this evening we will all, the whole band, be in a certain place somewhere near here, and if you wanna snag somebody and continue a conversation,
Okay.
I think that might be an opportunity.
Yeah, tell your students when we're done playing, just rush to the stage. Seriously. You know what? This is what we also do when we do clinics now. It used to be where we'll be on the stage and then the musicians are in the audience. I don't do that anymore. I make the musicians come on stage. So whatever instrument they play, just go crowd around our instrument. You know, I wish I'd had that opportunity when I was 12 to go stand right next to the Basie trumpet section. Can you imagine? I mean, it still hit me, but can you imagine standing right there watching them? So we have the musicians have them come on stage, talk to Trevor, talk to George, stay in touch with them, you know, because that's what it's about. We like to make sure that we pass this music on. It's not the audience and the orchestra. It's one big collective sound of people trying to make each other's lives better. So tell your musicians, all of them, no matter what they play, sing, any, rush to the stage when the show's over. We'll talk to them and stay in touch, you know, whatever. I think that might be it.
Yeah, what an amazing